Hi! Hi guys. Yeah, we're back again. Imagine that.
Always.
We have actually a series review for you today.
What?
I know,
With
right?
both of us.
At the same time, it's magic. These 3 books have been mentioned before. We read the last one as part of the Christmas Book Tubeathon, but we're not actually sure if these are the only 3 books in the series. We're under the impression that there are probably more coming, so we're sort of doing a series so far review, but that was why they were given to us. Those books are by N.D. Wilson, and this first one is The Dragon's Tooth. These are all part of the Ashtown Burials series, so this is the first book that we received. The second book is The Drowned Vault, and thank you, Venna. And the third book is Empire of Bones, which many of you will recognize from previous videos. These were actually sent to us through N.D. Wilson's publicist. She contacted us and then had Random House ship them. They came to us in a cool package from like the Random House logo on it.
It was really
It made us feel
exciting.
special for a little bit.
Yeah.
These books are actually middle grade books, so we're talking like 11, 12, 13-year-olds.
Reading level 4.1, 8 years to 12.
So they're not for teenagers, basically. Although, you can definitely be a teenager and read them.
And we're both 21.
So, the reason I say this is, although they're for middle grade, they definitely have a lot of mature themes before we get into explaining what exactly happens.
In this book, we're introduced to both of the main characters, Cyrus and Antigone Smith, as well as their older brother, Daniel, who seems to have the most commonplace name of the 3 of them.
Yes.
They are living in this old motel called the Archer Motel, and they run this old, dilapidated motel.
Their parents are not in the picture.
Their parents are not in the picture. That later gets revealed what happens to all of them, or what has happened to all of them. And they just make waffles. That's a very prevalent theme throughout the first book, is the waffles that they make and the waffle mix that they use to keep everybody that bothers to stay at the motel fed, as well as themselves. They're basically living off waffles in these rooms and going to school and riding around in this old, terribly broken down car, and Cyrus likes to play in the swimming pool out back, which is full of tires and no water. One day, a strange man shows up at their motel in this crazy looking car, needs a very specific room, takes over Cyrus's room, much to his dismay, and eventually winds up dying and leaving him some keys.
We are thrust into this world, like these characters, that we have never heard of and never understood. This mysterious man has connections to something called the Order of Brendan, and we basically spend the entire book following Cyrus and Antigone and figuring out what this is and why all of these people are suddenly after them and why all of these crazy things are taking place. We meet a lot of interesting characters from
So many characters.
all different backgrounds. There's a lot of characters.
This is a very diverse series.
Yes, and it's great because there's a lot of characters from different countries, different
ethnicities.
Yeah, exactly.
All
over the world. And you also have people who are not mortal. You have people called transmortals, and they are funky in their own right. They are completely different.
Can't die, but can die.
And when these characters arrive at the headquarters of the Order of Brendan, they are not very
welcome.
Yeah. They sort of get shoved into this horrible basement room with all of these icky creatures.
Spiders.
Whip spiders.
Lots of spiders.
Yes, and this kid named Nolan, he's sort of like their only friend for a little bit, and then they slowly start to make friends.
Well, part of the reason is because they haven't really received a very warm welcome. Their last name, Smith, is not very well liked in the Order of Brendan due to trials and tribulations back in the old days with Captain John Smith hacking some heads off and a very long, long lineage of hate that they are doomed to inherit.
You don't really figure out what is going on in this book because the characters are just as confused as you are.
Also, the characters are pretty young. I think Antigone is 13
and
this,
Cyrus is like 11.
So
So they're definitely on the younger side.
yeah.
I mean, that's typical for middle grade. Daniel is 18.
Yeah.
So he's, you know, somebody we would more relate to in terms of age.
But
and
Daniel doesn't get a lot of airtime.
No, he's not really in this book. When this book was over and all of these crazy things had happened, I honestly felt like Cyrus was well explained, but Antigone was not well explained.
I
She
agree.
was definitely not fleshed out as a character, and so we were definitely looking forward to picking up The Drowned Vault and figuring out more about her character. There's definitely some time in between the first one and the second one because they have been better welcomed into the Order of Brendan, and they are starting to pick up on some of the skills that you earn.
Yes.
Like flying planes and deep sea diving. Like, they do crazy stuff.
The Order of Brendan is an interesting and mysterious little group of people.
Yeah.
Because they sort of have to go out in the field and go on missions and learn to be explorers and journeymen and sages, and you sort of move up through the ranks.
Yeah, and you're protecting things and also getting rid of bad people. They have a lot of different things that they do, and it's a huge organization.
You have to swear an oath. Ashtown, in Ashtown, Wisconsin, where this particular sect of
the Order
is located, is only one. There are sects and places of Order of Brendan all over the world.
In this book, we are further introduced to the idea of what a burial actually is, because this series is called the Ashtown Burials. Basically, transmortals, those people who cannot die, when they have done something bad and need to be punished, they are buried.
That could mean anything.
That could mean a number of things. This guy on the cover, yeah, he's buried in water. He's attached by chains to this huge thing of concrete so that he can never escape. And they're sort of in this weird state of half sleep. Cyrus a couple times touches different people who are buried, and he can feel the heat coming off of them because they're not actually dead. They're just sort of stuck until someone releases them.
Their hair keeps growing.
Yeah, that's all hair in there, and it's really
400 years of growth from your skull.
Really kind of nasty.
In the second book, we also sort of get a better grip on who one very specific and very important person to Cyrus and Antigone is, and his name is Rupert Greaves. He is the Blood Avenger, or as they shorten that up to, Avengel, of the Ashtown sect of the Order of Brendan. Keep wanting to say Order of the Phoenix. Rupert sort of becomes a makeshift father-brother type figure to these kids in a way, helping them, guiding them. He really takes up the reins when they have to face challenges. Helps them with their training and also with the darkness of life that surrounds them in a way based on who they are.
Life in the Order of Brendan is definitely not easy. There's a lot of things that are kind of out to get you, lots of ways to possibly maim or kill yourself. What the big dealio is the Dragon's Tooth, which was the name of the first book. This is something that one of the bad guys, Phoenix, really wants to get his hands on, and it is a continual battle throughout these 3 books between Cyrus, Antigone, and their friends at Ashtown and Phoenix, and also eventually another evil character named Radu Bey, who is later introduced. Yes, he is talked about briefly in this one and then makes a very big appearance in the next one. And so they are constantly trying to protect themselves and certain artifacts from Phoenix. The Dragon's Tooth jumps different hands and they're trying to chase it and get it back because they don't want him to have it. Phoenix is creating these weird, messed up people.
He basically takes dead people and puts a different spirit of life back into them and then pushes them around exactly as he would normal humans to do his bidding.
There's a bit of a showdown between those characters in this book as there is in the first one, and in the third one it's kind of like the climax every time is what's going to happen between these characters and Phoenix and eventually Radu Bey. Third one, Empire of Bones. This, like we said, brings up the character of Radu Bey. He's an extremely evil person who sort of has so much negativity surrounding him that all these people are drawn to him, and he draws his power from these people.
And their fears and their hates.
He basically wants to take over the world, more or less, I would say so.
Create a new human race based in fear and power.
And of course, our characters, along with their transmortal friends, cannot let this happen. There are a lot of characters floating around in this book, and you start to, because of those introduced earlier, you start to follow who some of them are. Their mother finally makes an appearance. Daniel is very important in this book as well. This one definitely seemed like the big showdown, but when we got to the end, it was sort of ended at a weird spot, and we're like, well, this could definitely continue on. Like, there are unresolved things here. And
I am confused.
Yes.
By this point, we have about 3 different people that we're looking to beat. Radu Bey, Phoenix, and the Transmortals. Yeah. Not all of whom are really on the same side as Cyrus and Antigone.
And since you can't easily kill a transmortal, it becomes much more of a problem for them as time goes on. They also are trying to convince people from the Order of Brendan to help them, and a lot of them are fleeing because they don't trust the Smiths.
Meanwhile, all of our characters that have really been gunning for the good guys the whole time have been doing that for 2 books, and they're tired, and they're wounded, and people are really starting to lose some steam, and everything sort of comes to a head at the end, and you really think everyone should just be dead by now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a bloodbath at the end.
A little.
This one is definitely more graphic.
Blood on like every page.
I
Not
know,
in
there's
this death sense, but like someone's nose is always getting broken.
This is where I start to feel like this is not a middle grade series in a way, because it does get really, really dark. There's some weird stuff that even I had trouble understanding what was going on sometimes, and I feel like I had to slow down a lot and reread things, and as a middle grade series, I really wasn't expecting to have to do that. I obviously wouldn't go handing this to some of the little kids that I know, because I wouldn't be so sure how comfortable they would be reading this.
Or how comfortable I would be letting them read it.
If somebody picked this up at the library, then go for it. But this is definitely not an easy glide through it middle grade by any means.
It's intense.
It's intense, it's dark, there's a lot of characters.
There's so many plot lines to keep track of. That was my real issue with it. I feel like if I were reading this as a 12-year-old, maybe I would have been able to keep track of them, but perhaps not. So quality work, N.D. Wilson, for creating such an intricate story.
Yes, like the world was amazing in terms of everything that he came up with and all of the little things and the people and how stuff works. I mean, that was very, very impressive.
And a lot of it was actually set in the present. So you have the normalcy of the everyday world going on around all of this.
All of this crazy
Eventually
stuff.
there are a couple of trips to New York City, and the people of New York City, who really can't take any more tragedy, if you ask me, are subject to the craziness of this world. And that was very clever, because you don't often see that in fantasy stories.
That being said, I definitely feel like the series as a whole deserves 4 stars. Yeah, she agrees with me, you know. Not recommended for everyone by any means. Not everybody is going to immediately pick up a middle grade series and fall in love with it. But I also feel like this would attract
readers of a higher level.
People who are our age could pick up these books and definitely still enjoy themselves, because there are so many different things going on to keep you interested, and so many different characters to fall in love with and really enjoy reading about.
It's like when authors write children's books that adults are supposed to read to their children, but really are writing the books for the adults.
It's a version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there were to be a 4th novel, which I think both of us agree we would particularly enjoy, I think we would look forward to some closure about what's up with Cyrus right now, since that was sort of left open-ended.
Yep.
At the end of Empire of Bones. And also Katie Smith, their mother, how much of a role is she going to play? Is the role she's playing now important?
Since she was brought back into the story.
What's the deal with that? And also, Cyrus and Antigone continually get mentioned as a pair. On the cover of each of the books, they're Cyrus and Antigone. And they do things together, and they really need each other throughout all of the series to get things done and sort things out at the end of the Empire of Bones. I think it's really, really important that both of them are together.
Antigone, Cyrus, like, they're together.
Exactly. And while that's true, a lot of the book really focuses on Cyrus, and Antigone continually gets, I don't want to say slighted.
No, because she definitely has her parts.
But she does often feel a little left out as a character.
Yeah, like, what's special about her?
Exactly.
Both of her brothers are special. What's special about her?
Yeah. And maybe nothing is special about her. Maybe she's very ordinary, and that is what makes her special. But, you know, if there were something, and there very well could be, what is it? We would like to know.
So that concludes our series review of the Ashtown Burials.
Series so far.
Yeah, true. Series so far. Who knows what's happening after that?
Believe you me, if there's another, you'll hear about it.
Yeah, we'll let you know. As always, we have our linky links in the doobly-doo. You can go down there to find us elsewhere besides on your YouTube
Besides here.
subscription feed. Yep.
If yours still works, Google Plus.
What? Anyway.
With that,
Moving this video to